So I'm sorry. Dr. Kay Jones is the co-founder and serves as the New York State representative of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. With Mr. Jones' leadership, the organization has been a strong advocate for law enforcement and community relations, helping to spearhead initiatives such as Save Our Schools mentoring program. He has served in various capacities of the National Black Police Association, including NAPA's Northeastern Region President from 2006 to 2010. On behalf of NBPA, Mr. Jones has assisted in advising Governor Patterson's New York State Police on Policing Shooting Task Force, which created to examine the issues and implications arising from police shooting and confrontations. This is a groundbreaking study to examine racial bias and perceptions within the law enforcement system. Mr. Jones has been a recipient of many accolades, such as the Certificate of Merit from the New York State Governor's Office for his commitment to building a better relationship between law enforcement in the New York metropolitan area and the communities that they serve. Mr. Jones is also a 25-year veteran of the Westchester County Department of Corrections, married to Latifah Jones, an 11-year veteran of Mount Vernon Police Department. They have two children, Ilan and Maisha.
Dr. Joseph A. Connell Sr. holds a doctoral degree in counseling psychology and is a board-certified pastoral counselor and ordained minister with over 20 years' experience in the counseling profession. His work focuses on integrating principles and disciplines of Christian faith and psychology. Connell is also a licensed attorney, admitted to practice before the United States Supreme Court, the United States Federal District Courts of New Jersey and New York, the Supreme Court of New Jersey, as well as the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Dr. Connell has lectured in universities and professional schools of psychology, medicine, social work, nursing, and theology, including New York City and Connecticut Emergency Medical Services, the New York City Health and Hospital Corporation, and the United States military. He is also on the board of directors of Court-Appointed Special Advocates of New Jersey Incorporated, national organization that advocates for children of New Jersey Incorporated, a national, that advocates for children removed from their families because of the abuse or neglect. He maintains both law and counseling practices in Tom's River and Mount Howard, New Jersey.
So our last speaker, Ms. Michelle Alleyne, who will be coming shortly. I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to have everyone break some food, and then we're going to come back for the panel discussion. Ms. Michelle Alleyne is a crisis management chair for the National Action Network Launch Chapter. She received her AAS honors degree in public administration and a BA degree in psychology with a minor in cross-cultural studies. Ms. Alleyne is also elected judicial delegate to New York City District 87 in the Bronx, and was a rescue worker deployed to the borough of Manhattan Community College as part of the temporary morgue emergency assistance unit for the September 11, 2001 assignment. In 2004, at the Greater Alleyne Cathedral, she created a social media site to inform the 9/11 community of the current news and changes that were happening as a result of September 11. Additionally, she has worked with distinguished women of 9/11 to assist with outreach and provide information and referrals to women in need affected by 9/11. She has received letters of commendation for her Y2K and World Trade Disaster Assistance, and Ms. Alleyne has previously served as a board member of the Harchester Police Athletic League, mediator of the National Guard Union of America, and peace officer for the Department of Homeless Services and Emergency Assistance. Okay. These are our esteemed speakers, and we know you all have to leave sometimes, so we can have a little break for about 10 minutes for food, and you guys can come and sit, and we'll begin our panel discussion. Okay? I don't know if we can start maybe with this side, and we'll have you guys go and get some food and come back.
I just thank the Lord. He's a way maker. All right, in Jesus' name. Okay. And there's nothing but grace. So I'm here today before you today. All right. So I just want to say that, after my experience, I was actually interested. I was actually accepted for C a long time ago at John Jay College. Right? That was an opportunity I had a long time ago, and I wound up going to historically black college in North Carolina, North Carolina Central University. But I wound up finishing at the City University of New York, and one of my assignments was at Ground Zero. And I'm coming before you today as not only a graduate of psychology and my of course cultural studies at York College. I also did an assignment down at Ground Zero with the City University of New York. And I came to you as a 9/11 health and on advocate as far as health and benefits and my experiences as a African American and having experience with the whole James Broad Health Compensation Act to assist with benefits after 9/11. After the James Broad Health Compensation Act expired in 2016, and so they're going to be asking for this is current information 25 more years to the Zagota Act. Okay, and that means more and more, responders and civilians that were down there during that time is going to come out in need of benefits. And what I've noticed today is that the cultural, the ethnic diversity of people coming out is more persons of color. Okay, and the whole they need more funding in the kitty. If it extends 25 more years, they're going to need more funding added to assist responders. They do have a national hotline number, right? It's 877-498-2911. 78498-2911. If you know anybody who was affected by Ground Zero 9/11. I worked in temporary local emergency assistant unit at Borough Manhattan Community College. My original assignment was hosted when I was sent to Borough Manhattan Community College. And, since then, I had, it was interesting to see how, the people came together. It didn't matter, what department, it didn't matter what division, what department we was in. A lot of departments from nationally have responded to the call. Okay, and really worked harmoniously together to make sure that the safety of the mother was there, was ready to assist in any way necessary. After it took a while, it took a long time to get the James Broad Health and Compensation Act, passed. But thanks to a lot of responders and organizations that were set up, like the Feel Good Foundation, and the Feel Good Foundation is an organization that's set up for rescue workers and responders, to assist, when they need assistance with help and referrals and stuff like that. The Tuesday Children Responder Alliance is another organization that I would recommend. Okay, and back in 2004 and 2005, I even created one called Distinguished Woman of September 11th. It started off like a social, like a media information center. Okay, to enlighten the internet, the media, the internet audience on the different changes in law that were happening during that time. Okay, and actually was picked up with my church, the Greater Alleyne. I don't know if anybody knows about the Greater Alleyne. And they gave me this yeah. They gave me the opportunity to start, but it was premature because in the urban areas, most of the advocacy and proactive outreach to assist responders was happening in Staten Island or, in the outer skirts or Manhattan, downtown Manhattan, where it was actually happening. And I was located in the Bronx and, Queens at the time. And so it was very premature. And so after the Voter Act was passed, I see that there was a need to reintroduce the Distinguished Women September 11th because I found, that a lot of persons of color were affected and they were not getting the proper information and assistance in the urban areas, and they found themselves passing away before they even wound up getting relief efforts. And I said, I've seen how they firsthand how attorneys that came out and proactively really had to really advocate to get the firemen and the police officers, like the Police Benevolent Association and the fire department, their unions came out and really proactively came out and assisted them. City University was there, but they were there more on the educational aspect of it, I know, let me stick to the topic too a little bit, because I want to give you some information. All right, as far as bridging the gap, as far as police, because I've been a police officer for over 10 years. All right, 20 years of work experience in public safety, 10 years. And what I realized is that during my journey, right, that the 9/11 movement actually happened before the Ferguson, movement, right? And I really felt at the time, for some reason, I wasn't given a voice. It was like I was there, but I was like being a witness to the realities of a movement, generating on police violence, which has always been there, but this 9/11 movement was, and the information that needed to come out it was really important, like on the forefront of the fact of terrorism, was going on a higher level in your local law, street violence, black on black crime. You know what I mean? That really needs to be on the forefront of topics in the education. We really need to focus on black on black crime. Because now with the terrorism, it's a little on a higher level now, okay? Where, and I'm just, like I said, it's going to be very informal because I'm talking about my experiences. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I felt like whether, that the 9/11 movement and the civil, I felt like it shouldn't have been a divide, to be honest with you. I felt like it was very important to talk about terrorism, period, whether it was internationally or local. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't care, black on black crime, anytime somebody that's coming to you looking just like you and they ready to do harm to you, that's terrorism. Okay? And so, and so we really needed to get it on one page. You know what I mean? As far as terrorism, period. Okay, and I was even stating that, like, in certain communities, a lot of people would say, "Oh, Armageddon's coming." Stuff like that. I'm a very, very good student, every time. But Armageddon is coming. But the reality is that 9/11 and Armageddon, it pretty much you got to do the same. This is real. What happened back in 2001 was very real. Okay, because when it comes down to being somewhere where you call home, right? And some foreign people come and they come into your home and do an act of terrorism. It's time to respond, and we have to come to the point now where we have to realize that we have to do our research. First of all, we have to do our research. It's really important to do your research and come to a point where if you're not in public, first of all, I want to say something real quick. All right, the way we can, I'm gonna say something real quick. As far as police and community, bridging the gap, they should have. I mean, remember the what you call it, the guardian angels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that in my research that the law enforcement right now is coming down very severe. Like you notice in Ferguson, right? They're coming down with the like military uniforms, and they're coming out with the guns and stuff like that, and they're coming to the urban communities in militaristic uh uniform attire. Well, it's, from what I was just, because according to an article, they said the Congressional Black Caucus, I don't know why, this is something that maybe the students can try to figure out, had voted overwhelmingly for this to happen.
Yes, that's right.
And so I was flabbergasted when I heard that, and I was saying to myself, wait a minute, what about the guardian angel or some form of community peace patrol? That can be a first-hand line of defense in the urban communities before this militaristic, optic thing. It really, it really was like a shock when they were throwing the tear gas and all that other stuff down there in Ferguson. Like, okay, so what I'm trying to say is that I really do believe that they should bring back like the guardian angel and like some form of community peace patrol before they do any militaristic details. And I have a lot of 9/11 information for people who were affected down in Zero. I'm gonna leave it out here on this way for y'all to pick it up. And basically we need to stop making it an us versus them and you get enlightened about what terrorism really is. Thank you.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of what was defined by some of happiness, and as defined by others, the pursuit of property. Wow. How did we go from such a noble statement like that to between 2006 and 2012, unarmed African American people being killed at a rate of 2 a week? How did we get there? What happened? I listened to my fellow panelists and I'm honored to be with the two of you. Both of you have an amazing amount of relevant things to say, and I just hope that my wisdom can come in here and make some kind of sense to someone. We have an us against them mentality against the police department, but when I was in Vietnam, there was a statement that was made: we have met the enemy, and they is us. There are no clean hands here. There are no clean hands here. We are tolerant toward the police department. Why are we so tolerant toward the police department? Why are they allowed to basically perpetrate extrajudicial killings, extrajudicial murders without penalty? When I say extrajudicial murders, I mean the person is tried, found guilty, and executed before they even make it to a police precinct. This is what I'm concerned about. The police department represents the will of the majority. They represent the law. How do laws become enacted? And I'm going to ask you the question right now. I'm going to be the one to ask you a couple of questions. How do laws come into being? Can anyone tell me? Oh, please. We're sitting in John Jay College. You have to tell me something. Yes.
It starts with you taking the matters to Congress, and somehow Congress gets a hold of it and becomes a bill, and then
We gotta break out Schoolhouse Rock here. Because, I'm only a bill, but one day I'll become law. Okay, yeah, I strongly recommend Schoolhouse Rock. That and my adjectives. I learned about adjectives using Schoolhouse Rock. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that there is a legislative process that needs to occur. And you're quite right, my sister. There is a legislative process that occurs. There is an opportunity for comment in many cases, which most people don't realize. And then there is a vote that is taken. Now, also, this commentary is undergone by people who we have placed in office. Now, I have spoken with several of my brothers and sisters, and I love them to death, but I've asked them, when is the last time you voted? Why? Why am I going to vote? In fact, who's running? It had gotten so bad that and my sister mentioned informality, so I'm going to take pains to be informal with you. I said, does Joseph Connell have to choke a brother up in here? What's going on? How can you not know who's running for president of the United States? How can you not know who's running for mayor? How can you not know? Like I said, there are no clean hands. The legal system is a professionally incestuous one. It is one where prosecutors are linked to the police department. The police need prosecutors to bring their cases to court to validate their arrest, to take them through the grand jury. Because if they don't get through the grand jury, their captain is all of a sudden going to start asking, why are you arresting people that nobody wants to prosecute? The district attorney needs the police officers and have to play ball with them, because you don't rise through the ranks and go from being an assistant district attorney to a supervising assistant district attorney, and then from assistant supervising district attorney to borough district attorney, and then onward and upward without having the police cooperate with you. So it is a band that comes together, a militarized band technically, that comes together and stands against the general public. Now, I'm not saying that there are universals here. There are good police officers. There are good police officers, and I need to emphasize that. There are people who put on this uniform every day and they want to do good. But there are also good people sitting in this room. They get up, all they want to do is to go out about their business and come back home safely. What is our tolerance then with the police? They're enacting the will of the majority, as I had mentioned just a few moments ago. They're enacting the law. They're actually enacting what we either put in by voting for, or we put in by our passive assent. If we're going to be honest with each other, we're going to have to admit that. As my brother mentioned, the vote is important. He said that on several occasions, and I could not agree more. One of the first things we have to realize is the power of the vote. We protested after Michael Gardner. We protested after Kai Gurley. We protested after Michael Brown. I'm sorry. Did I say that already? We protested. Where are the protesters now? What's going on with them? What's the latest? Can anyone tell me? I'm sorry?
I said they're still protesting.
Are they?
No.
CNN decided that you don't need to know that if they are. Fox News definitely decided that you don't need to know that. MSNBC decided that you don't need to know that. They tell you that if we want your opinion and we want your involvement, we'll solicit it from you. We'll give it to you. So we are being, aside from it, as a race of people, as African people, we have been victimized by the greatest psychological warfare experiment that has been waged against an organized people since the dawn of mankind, I would tend to think. We are also now being victimized. We're being re-traumatized. How do we handle that? What do we do about that? We protest, but then we go home. Now, I am a godly man. I love the Lord dearly, and everyone in this room needs to know that. but I will take pains to say this to you, unless we become a hemorrhoid to the system, an inflamed hemorrhoid to the system, these things will continue to perpetuate themselves at our expense. Is anyone familiar with the website Criming While White? I'm sorry, say again? Say something about that, would you?
Well, I know that, like, the social media hashtag about it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's not a website so much.
Yeah. White allies talking about how when they had contact with the police, they got away safe and sound. When there have been instances of people of color doing the same things and being brutalized.
Well, I'll say a mixture of white allies and some people are posting, oh, okay, well, I've had this experience with this happened, I got away with it.
Yeah.
I don't call them white allies, they're just addressing it, but they're not really saying anything. No.
But they are talking.
They're talking.
Someone is talking.
Yeah.
Someone is saying something. Saying because I am this color, I got away with it. I am the other guy sitting right next to me didn't. He went to jail. That's the equivalent of saying, all right, 2 kids go to school. One kid is late with his milk money, and the teacher says, okay, bring it in tomorrow, or bring it in next week. You missed a week, it's okay. The other person forgets their milk money, and the student government votes debt. We laugh, but that is the kind of racial configuration that we're dealing with right now. Why is it? How did it get to be, from the words I uttered in the beginning of my little statement here, how did it get from that to this? We have I am so grateful that we have an African American president in one sense, and I am so sad that we have an African American president in another sense. He has done more to bring to the forefront this country's immaturity, social immaturity, than anything else. Somebody recently referred to him as the monkey president. Okay, they have comic strips depicting him as Curious George. Everybody know what Curious George is? Little monkey, right? And everybody finds that cute. And we look, our eyes narrow a little bit, but we really do nothing about it. Because the underlying premise is, what can we do? And that is the purpose of us coming together today. What can we do to enact change? What can we do to make this country, not only this city, but this country safer for everyone? Yes.
Some people, I'm not going to say some black people assume like the solution to the problem is just going out, killing all white people.
Eddie Murphy had a skit on Saturday Night Live where he was a Rastafarian gentleman, and he made a hit song that said, kill all the white people. That's not a solution, because once again, we look at this. Yeah, there's so much to say here. Oh,
I like, there's a good way that one of the ministers in my church said, you have to look at them, and this is serious after terrorism. Come on now, it's time for us to move forward. Right? We have to look at white people, just call them light-skinned brethren and sisters. Light-skinned, they just light-skinned, that's it. A little slick hair, that's it. Because the reality is, I'm just gonna keep this real, because there's good and evil in everybody. Your own devil is the devil in you. If Jesus in me loves it, it all depends on the person. And so, because right now we have to get on the same page on what's happening in America. All right, and one thing I realized with technology, that's one of the biggest distractions right now, and knowledge, moving this country forward. Libraries are closing. Like everybody is on the internet. They even have like statues where the library's going in the concrete. Why is the 42nd Street Library doing petitions for closing? One of the biggest research libraries here. talking about turning into some internet cafe here or something like that. Some type of why? That's one of our historical landmarks. It's important to realize that you have to do research. Perfect example is like right in my own neighborhood. Over 100 years ago, there was a Connell plant there. There was coal tar coming out of the, some black substance coming out of the soil. And so people wanted to know what it was. And right now, it's a Catholic school, right? But if you didn't have research or blueprints from back in the days, you wouldn't know that there was an old con medicine plant there. You're gonna close the libraries and you're taking these books and you're throwing them away or taking them wherever. And for you young people not to know what's really going on. Okay? I'm just gonna keep it very real. Alright? What happened now, if they add 25 more years, okay, to the Zagota Act and more responders and civilians come out, okay, it's important and the cultural diversity of the people that are being affected are coming out now. It's very important for outreach to go into urban cities. Now you're talking about going into the urban cities. And the whole thing about the military optics and that's coming down the pipe because the perfect example was upstate. There was an article about the police actually using the tank to go to a house to go arrest a drunk driver, and the officer took the tank and ran it right into the house to catch the drunk driver and busted the whole house down. And so I don't know if they even put the drunk driver. I don't know, but the bottom line is once he got out of jail and stuff, he didn't have a home to go to because
Dr. Connell, you had asked an important question about what we can do about the divide, and I think it would be good to get back to that discussion.
okay.
Well, I just want to paraphrase a thing with Martin Luther King. He said the only way to combat hate is with love.
Well, let's look at the common principle of love, not the emotional principle of love, but the actual state of love.
Right.
All love is, and I'm going to take pains, for those of you who are not Christian, please forgive me, but I'm going to refer to my holy book, and I'm going to say that the agape love, which is the total encompassing love of Christ, is simply doing one thing, acting with another person's best interest at heart. It does not require you to like that person, but it requires you to function with their best interest at heart. Now, that is the concept of love. Now, love requires us, if we are acting with another person's best interest at heart, that love requires us to confront impropriety when we find it.
Absolutely.
So now we cycle back as to how do we constructively confront this impropriety. First of all, in my opinion, we need to focus on not becoming victimized by it. How many of you have been stopped by the police in this room? I have. Okay. There was a time long ago in a galaxy far away when the Ford Expedition first came out. I used to drive one. And because, good evening. How you doing, son? I'm sorry, family, that's my son, our son. So. I used to drive a Ford Expedition, and simply because I drove a Ford Expedition, I automatically dealt drugs. And also I was locked down to my waist. That didn't help matters very much. So I automatically dealt drugs, and I was automatically pulled over where other people just drove around me who I know were dealing drugs while I was being stopped. How many of you have ever gone into a supermarket? Or do you remember when the stores first opened, the Korean fruit stands? How many of you some of you are young enough that from time you can remember there were Korean fruit stands. I remember times when they were first starting up. And the Korean people, bless their soul, they would follow you around the food stand. Yeah, if you went down one aisle, they were like, stacking groceries on that aisle. They followed you from the time you arrived until the time you left. Meanwhile, a Caucasian person can walk in and steal them blind and they would not notice it.
That's right.
What are we dealing with? What are we dealing with? A systemic problem. Yes, please. I'm sorry, say again.
We need to change the values and belief of people, because that's what we're dealing with. Their belief racism and stereotypes.
And you're quite right. Now we're heading into the area, with that statement that you've made, we're heading into the area of a Trayvon Martin. Okay? The man who shot and killed him followed him despite police department instructions telling them, leave the man alone. We got this. Let him go. This man felt this need to follow him because he came up in a society that told him that black people need to be followed. Black people cannot be trusted. It's the same society that says women are stupid and inconsequential. Asian people, whatever they say about Asian people, Latinos, I even wet back, you know? Come on. We have an institutional problem here. And the police are just reflective of this institutional problem. They're the purveyors of it simply because they are the ones, we turn a deaf ear and a blind eye in many cases to what they do because we pay them to do what technically turns out to be our dirty work. Pause and think about that for a moment. Because what and who gave them the authority to do that? How's my time doing, Doctor?
I'll make it short. We basically following your wrap up. We're going to do like a Q&A for 15 minutes with everyone, and then we're going to kind of wrap up.
Okay, and that's why I just want to make sure I'm not overstepping or overreaching or anything like that, because this is a topic that is as complex as it is simple.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, you know, I don't mean to be all over the place with this, but let me ask you a question. When a police officer stops you, what do you generally do? If you're driving, let's say you left here, you're driving home, what generally do you do if a police officer should stop?
Pull over.
Okay. What are you? This is on the subject. This is in the area of not being victimized by the police, not putting yourself in a position to be victimized. If a police officer pulls your vehicle over, what do you generally do? Do you argue with the police officer?
Obey the law.
Okay, this is extremely important. A police officer's authority on the street is complete. He or she does not have to listen to anything you have to say. The only thing they are required to do after they see your identification, and mind you now, after they see your identification, is inform you as to the reason why you were stopped. Prior to seeing your identification, they don't have to say anything to you, because they don't know who you are. And keep in mind, the plain truth of it is we're dealing with another human being.
Right.
Somebody who has a wife and kids, or a husband and kids, and left home, and not knowing for sure whether they're going to go back home to work. And the most dangerous part of a police officer's job is a car stop. Because when you get out of your vehicle and you walk toward that other vehicle, you don't know what this guy's coming out with. He can be coming out with a wallet, or he can be coming out with a mini Uzi. And many of us, for some reason, have the need to tint our windows. That even makes them more nervous. So in the words of Eddie Murphy, you've got a person who's nervous with a gun and a badge that gives him permission to do what to you whenever he gets good and ready. Yes?
I was going to say Chris Rock has a skit where he's very funny with
A fascinating piece of prose. I saw that.
Yeah, and he explains exactly
how not to get your butt kicked by the police.
But I want to say this too, and this is good to write down. Interfaith Disaster Services has a certification training for different interfaith religions to come together and have some type of training to be able to come together in a time of terrorist activity. Civilian response training academy response training for disaster assistance is available at FEMA.gov. Okay, so that's important too. If you want to know firsthand, how to go out there and see what's happening, be prepared to, I'm not talking about, youth. I'm talking about, people who are in law enforcement or any kind of public safety type of assistance, they need to go to the civilian response. They can do civilian response training. They can have a police. There's a police training, a civilian police academy, right? That you can go firsthand at one police plaza if you're a civilian and learn firsthand what police officers go through. Mr. William Bratton, he's the one that started it, or he played a big role in it. And so you could go to the police academy and get some civilian firsthand account of what police go through. If you want to get more sensitized to when I was born here, it was all white females. Right now, it's very culturally diverse. You have Arabs, Bengali, you have, African Americans, Africans. It's very ethnic, culturally diverse in that community. And after terrorism, it was very important because I knew that I had to start wearing pins, my uniform, saying that I was a responder. I didn't want to. I'm gonna be informed here. I just said I'm not gonna get caught up in I'm intermingling with, who's ISIS? That's the first thing I said. Who's ISIS? The only thing I remember in my era, y'all young, but back in the days, you used to think, oh my ISIS used to come in, right? And then so I was like, that's the only ISIS I know. So then what I'm trying to say is that I put on my pins, I put on my shirts, I put signs on my door. I was a responder, and until I was able to get some form of clarity what was going on. And after a while, I realized that in order to bridge that gap was to educate yourself on what you was looking at. Like, for instance, if you have a large Arab population after 9/11, right? It's important to have information on, okay, so what are the garbs? You see different colors, different garbs, like educate you on Islam or whatever, is, Arab population that's living in the community. Certain things about Islam and that maybe interfaith-wise, certain religious practices, other interfaith believers need to know. And so educational outreach in the urban neighborhoods is very important as far as, learning the different cultures that are in your neighborhood. Be getting involved in a civilian response training academy. You know what I mean? It's important to get involved in those trainings to get the certification.
Alright, thank you. Real quick, I got a question for Damon and Dr. Connell also. First, Damon spoke about the insidious nature of the laws that do not promote equity. Could you speak more about the impact of the institutionalized racism, black cops, and how they play a part in identifying formation and ability to resist conformity?
Well, in Westchester County, we did, along with the NAACP and Urban League, we have had maybe about 5 or 6 police and community relations forums. And White Plains, we did 3, Yonkers had 2, Vernon had 1. And one thing that was really, it was funny, we questioned, one of the main questions in all the forums that we asked the commissioners was racism and sexism. And all of them said no, and you heard a gasp in the audience, that they were just able to come out right in front and lie that racism does not exist in the police department. Now,
it's not a lie, they believe it.
Just last week, 2 chiefs of police resigned from Pelham Manor Police Department because they were sending racist emails throughout out their law enforcement brother. And it took one white cop that they fired to expose it. You know, and then now they found out that one of the Eastchester chiefs was on the email list. So for us not to believe that there is racism in the institution of policing, you know, we be fooling ourselves. But the problem is this: when you have, as far as black law enforcement, police department is a majority white men, and they maintain that control. They control the hiring process. They are the interviewers, and they control who comes in this institution because they control that process. They will interview a white person that has tickets. Says, well, he has a few tickets, but he's remorseful.
Right.
They interview the black person. Well, he has tickets. It looks like he tends to break the law, and they will write that on the interview.
Yes.
So that would disqualify the young brother, you know. Or we'd have had stories of, you know, if you live in a city that has high crime and you're a college student, but you might have a couple of family members that maybe sold drugs or did whatever. They will hold that against you. Well, we're not going to hire you because your cousin, you know, who lived on the other side of town, he got arrested for selling drugs. Well, what did that have to do with this young man? So these are the incidents that we go through. Now, I could be working with a white guy. He'll he'll know me in the jail. But let's have no payday, and I'm in line with him at the bank, and I'm in civilian clothes. He wouldn't even look my way.
That's right.
Because I'm not in that uniform that gives him the okay sign, you know, that I'm one of y'all. You know, see, I'm not looked at being one of y'all when I'm at my tent, just like this brother here. They won't think I'm one of them. You know, that's why black cops in New York State, black cops have been shot at and killed 27 times by their white counterparts, whether in plain clothes or off duty, trying to do the job that they're supposed to do. And it has never happened in the reverse, where a black uniformed cop shot a plain clothes white cop. Never happened in the reverse. Now, what came out of the police on police shooting task force was that racial bias, conscious or unconscious, plays an existence in the police officer's decision to shoot or not shoot a subject. Now, old man that I told you, senior, we had 5 police officers, a senior with COPD. Now, if anybody y'all have a family member with COPD, he's not doing a lot. All right, so you're trying to tell me that 5 cops with a body shield could not take down a senior citizen with COPD, that they had to taser him, shoot him with the beanbag 3 times, and then shoot and kill him. All because Life Alert called the police to his house.
And they came in for medical assistance.
And they came for a medical assistance. I couldn't get in contact with my mother 3 days ago. I was not calling the police, because that would have happened too, because she's a senior. And they'd have been knocking on the door and she would have got said, I'm not going to let you in. They would have, what, tore her door down too? That's what happened with Eleanor Bumpers.
Yes. Yes.
We can't forget. See, these instances. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was getting ready. I was getting yeah, no problem. Do your thing, man. Yes.
Can you speak louder, please?
I just had a question. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Going back to what you were saying about individuals who are of color who are interested in applying to police force and they're being turned away because they have family members. I was told that even if they have like links with individuals from like Facebook accounts or on social media that might be involved in any kind of activity.
Well, I mean, they can use that against the applicant, but what we see that they use that with us. They don't use that with them.
That's right.
Yeah, it's always a double standard because we are usually not in those positions to make those type of decisions. You know, if you look at police departments that really have a hierarchy of black management, you see that their relationship with the police, with the community is totally different. You know, I mean, not all of them, but the majority of them. The chief of police of Dallas, he fired him on the spot. He don't play. You know, but what they do in New York, they won't fire him. They put him on desk duty and they go whole rigmarole. Well, we've seen black management who understand those issues, you know, and they review the applicants a little differently than, because you gotta understand, if you have a community that's economically deprived, you know, and you have a kid that makes it out, gets a college degree, you know, and you won't give him a chance because his cousin is a drug dealer, that's an internal decision. You know, that's not knowing his kid. He don't have no record. He didn't break any laws. That's an internal decision. But when I see it, and I just keeping it real. When I see some of the white boys on the job, I'm like, how did you get this job?
Thank you.
You understand? But guess what? They related to the warden, all this and this and that, and they dumber than a nail.
Right.
I see the process that goes on, and that's why we encourage young people to get the job, but also we encourage them to rise up the ladder so they can make decisions on policies.
Okay. I'm just going to refer this question to Dr. Connell, and then I want to let you know about the new phase in healing that we have started, and it's called the Emotional Emancipation Service. So we're going to have one of the sisters come and explain that after Dr. Connell addresses this question. This is basically, can you speak more to the changes needed in the judicial system? In your humble opinion.
In my Absolutely. Before I address that, can I complete one thought that I had intentionally making this rather important, and I want to get this across? It's only going to be about 30 seconds. If a police officer, if you are in custody and a police officer goes to question you, invoke your right to counsel. Mm-hmm. Do not be hasty to answer questions. Do not get friendly, chummy, or anything else. They have you in that room for a reason. They are not your friends.
Right.
Okay, they may like you personally. Even if they like you personally, they have a job to do. And when they become friendly with you and they compromise that job, they're violating their own system. Now, once you invoke your right to counsel, please do not turn around and start talking. A lot of people say, I want an attorney. Then the cop will say something, continue to talk to him, and then they'll continue the conversation. And they'll try to answer, they'll make a statement, and the next thing you know, the defense attorney, he says, well, the right to counsel was invoked, Your Honor, and however the police kept questioning my client, he waived his right to counsel. He kept talking. He instituted the conversation, so therefore he canceled out his own right to counsel. He agreed to cooperate with us. So be very careful. This is the point that I did want to make. Once you've invoked your right to counsel, stay with that. Wait for your attorney to come. Yes?
I think that that's a good approach to take when it comes to like being in court. But when it comes to like a case like when it comes to a case like Eric Garner, like that really doesn't apply. What would you suggest for Eric Garner to do? Should he just not resist if he's innocent, if he's just selling loose cigarettes? Or should he actually say, wait a minute, this shit has got to stop. Like this is wrong. You guys can't keep doing this. And I think the fact that he went a different route, I think that's what led to the conversation we're having now.
What I believe
that he needed to do that.
Allow me, please forgive me, I didn't mean to cut you off. But what I believe happened there was egos got involved. These smaller sized Caucasian gentlemen looked at a large sized black man and they said, no matter how big he thinks he is, we can bring him down. I mean, if I told you the level of crime that that they were questioning him about, he wasn't working on. It was not even remotely close.
Right.
It was a disorderly person's offense, actually, in some jurisdictions.
Right.
It didn't rise to the level where he had to be tackled. And then what part of I can't breathe escapes intelligent people? These are trained police officers. They know tactics. They know how to diffuse and de-escalate a situation. They were supposed to be accountable for their behavior.
That's right.
Okay? Now, the police officer, when questioned, he stated, I meant the man no harm. And the grand jury said, oh, okay, cool.
You got like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
After he finishes, I want to just say something about that.
It's a similar question, but and it hasn't been addressed since you're talking about how to survive a police confrontation. If you feel that your rights have been violated, you cooperate. What do you do from that point? What are your rights? How do you handle that? What do you do?
You call a lawyer like Dr. Right here,
But he didn't have time to call a lawyer.
you file a police complaint. A lot of times, New York City is different. They have a civilian complaint review board. When you go further up New York, we've been battling for municipalities to get a civilian complaint review board. Some people don't even know that they can file a police complaint. And a lot of times, when you go in the police department, the complaints we have, they want ID and everything, but that's to deter you. You don't have to show your ID to get a police complaint. Some police departments have it online, that you can get online and download the police complaint. But the first thing is jot down everything that you can remember. Call a lawyer, file a complaint, and let the process work for itself. And hopefully that it wasn't that harm. That it has to get to that point. But always file a police complaint. But we found that cases, even with the Eric Garner case, a lot of cops already had many complaints on them.
Yes.
But they had many complaints. Now that's a management failure. That's accountability failure. But the easiest way to stop all this is to start putting these cops in jail and firing them. See, because when you can't pay your mortgage and you can't pay your light bill and your car note on your Range Rover, because a lot of these cops drive nice cars. I know a lot of them personally. See, when they can't pay that stuff, then they'll think about it. Mm-hmm. Then they'll think about it. That's how they stopped the abuse in my job. They started firing people. They started suspending them for 90, 120 days, 300 days, and not giving them no money. So the other bad ones are saying, okay, it's either time for me to retire because the culture has changed, or I'm just not going to get involved. I'm just not going to get involved in that. So we have to ask for accountability from policemen.
They're only going to do it to hire. They're going to hire the police officers to do the same.
Just to wrap up on this,
They're going to train them the same exact way.
I just want to say real quick, and then because there's two movements. There was a 9/11 movement, and then it became the Eric Garner, the civil, movement against police brutality. I understand the emotional, emancipation circles that need to be drawn around this, okay, in the college system here. Is the fact that the I Can't Breathe, all right, before there was the Eric Garner I Can't Breathe movement, the 9/11 movement, a lot of the respondents, it was a 7-year, 9-year campaign about, getting relief, and a lot of the respondents were in a situation where they couldn't breathe. A lot of them had to use CPAP machines and stuff, had to get CPAP machines, and there's a lot of health effects that has to do with 9/11. So while they're going through this 9/11 movement, and also remember that a 9/11 report just came out, all right, which raised the alert level of terrorism. Now, while this alert level is up, here comes this movement, okay? This is what y'all have to realize. And so now, while everybody's laid out on the floor, doing their acts of protest, civil, disobedience about what does democracy look like, and like laying out, I can't breathe, and then you have police officers saying, I can breathe. Because in reality, if a terrorist strike happens, they have to respond and help. You know what I'm saying? Because while it's a us versus them, if a terrorist strike happens, there will be more tragedies and more, civilian deaths in these movements across the nation, you know what I mean, than they ever wanted, that they want to ever have. God forbid there's no another terrorist strike. But if somebody really wanted to do an axis of evil move in the midst of the civil rights movement, it could be very, very, and more persons of color, more culturally diverse population of people will be affected. And so it's important to be sensitive.
But if black community don't have their own, like I think we need to build our own nation and like come together as a people. Like we don't have really our own infrastructure.
But this is our nation. Remember that. And whatever you can do right here.
And so a race war was to go down, we could lose.
No,
like,
sister, I agree with you.
We don't have anything. We don't have money.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. But we not collectively.
Why do black people own nothing?
Sister, I agree with you. No, I just wanted to respond because she makes a good point, but we are not using our power collectively. We spend over we are the nation's consumers. Over $1 trillion. $1 trillion. But we don't own an NBC, we don't own a CNN, we don't even own a black toilet paper company. All the black guys in the United States, there's not one black toilet paper company that we can say that's our own. Now whose fault is that? For a while, almost a year, we only had BLS for the mature audience, but nobody was outraged on that. So for us to talk about having a nation, we can't even get a radio station. We can't even get, so we gotta,
I think it goes back.
We gotta change our mindset. We gotta change our mindset.
You guys we're gonna take some more questions. We have some questions over here. Let's start with you in the front. Yes.
We gotta respond quickly.
We're only going so far.
Yes. All right. So, sir, we'll start with you.
All right. So, my name is Christopher Johnson. I'm a third-year counseling psychology student at Walden University. And if I look at the topic of discussion as how can we unify the divide? A conversation about relationships with law enforcement, right? And one of the things that I'm studying theoretically is the idea of racial identity development, which is a theory that was introduced by black psychologists in the 70s. That's saying the different ways in which blacks inhabit different types of attitudes. And in my estimation, the most adaptive attitude is one of black empowerment. You start with self-hatred, assimilation, anti-white, multiculturalism. But from my perspective, I think if we find ways to help young blacks and everyone feel more empowered, they'll be able to behave in ways that will improve the relationships they have with law enforcement. Because I would bet, in this study, the types of people who get locked up, the types of people that people in jail, to see whether they're, to see where they fall on that scale in terms of attitudes. Were they anti-white? Did they hate themselves? Did they have extreme
Who taught us the self-hate? Who taught self-hate? Who taught black people to hate themselves?
Ma'am, can you let me finish?
No, this is my home. Thank you.
Yes.
Talk about it, let's talk about it.
In the field of psychology, there's a cocktail party term. One thing we need to say. It's called paragnosis. Paragnosis is, by definition, a paranoid fear based on a well-documented act by another, basically speaking. We have been dealing with that in the African American community for a very long time. People tell us that we're paranoid. People tell us that we're overreacting and we're hypersensitive. And what they don't realize is that the reason for our hypersensitivity and our overreaction is based on a well-founded and well-documented fear. Now, what you're discussing is a concept of self-empowerment where you have to re-analyze ourselves because we do not like what we're going to hear. So now we have to start, what you're talking about is having that conversation with ourselves.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would hope, one of the outcomes that I would hope that would come out of this meeting is where 3 and 4 of you will sit together and begin to have these conscious conversations. Why do we think the way we think? Why do we feel the way we feel? Now, the emotional emancipation circle is strategically designed to take you there. And I believe this is what this brother wants to bring forward right now. So this may be an interesting segue into that. But the bottom line is, just because you're paranoid, that doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
Right. We got one final question from the sister up here, and then the president, she will introduce us to the emotional emancipation circle.
It's not so much a question as it is a statement. I just think that over time we've had Black people try to vie for the respect and the recognition of the dominant white society, and it's not working. So we've been doing that for centuries, and I think that we should rather shift the focus to the Black community. Like the gentleman said here, Black empowerment, like all the love and the respect and the recognition we should do as ourselves, and stop expecting like the dominant white society as a whole to do the things that they've proven themselves not capable of doing. And that's it, because I have no more time for it.
And I believe that you're correct, but let me give you a scenario. Mount Vernon is an 80% Black city. It has a Black mayor, it has a Black city council, it has a Black board of ed. There's no economic development. There's no job creation. Majority of Black males are locked up in the county jail. They have a Black mayor that's on probation. I'm keeping it real. So we have a Black city where we can't get it right. We have a Black city that allows white police officers to abuse our city, and we have Black elected officials. So we have to, as a people, we got to hold our Black elected officials accountable, because Mount Vernon is a unique city in the United States, right? But we can't get it right there. So that's why I'm saying, the sister, you're talking about having land to ourselves, talking about all that, but we have a Black city that we can't get right. So we have to change our attitude, like the brother was saying, like the doc was saying, because we're doing it to ourselves now. We're doing it to ourselves.
If you get it, can you keep it? My mother had land in the South. Have you ever heard of the Pickett versus Whitman case? Look up the Pickett versus Whitman case, the woman's land laws, and the Indians' land laws. There's been severe land laws in this country, and there are organizations set up that could assist and helping the landowners with their paperwork to get self-sustainable land grants, and these organizations are not doing it. Okay, these attorneys are not coming out to bat for these for the Indians, the women, and the Black farmers. My mother's in the less than 2% of Black farmland left, and I'm sitting here still after 9 years waiting for my relief benefits at 9/11. They sitting there waiting for a class action suit for the rest of the responders to go on a class action suit, for the ones that's just coming out now, and they're lowering the compensation rate because of the cultural diversity, ethnicity is changing. You know what I mean? In other words, you gotta utilize your power in these organizations.
Unfortunately, we got a late start. We need to submit another. But this is beautiful that we all got together for this conversation. So I'm bringing forth sisters here to explain the emotional emancipation circle, and all of you guys feel free to join us again. We're going to do an anti-violence symposium. Actually, it's going to be in John Day. The room is to be determined, but it's going to be held in April 18th. So it's going to be similar, but not exactly the same.
And I sort of plug in New Jersey and East Side is going to be doing also an anti-violence.
Oh, in collaboration. In collaboration. And not only that, but Brother Damon, I think he's welcome anytime to come back. This information was well received, and it created, dialogue, like hot button topic. Nobody wants to leave, unfortunately. Go.
I just wanted to see if we can just give everyone, thank you all to our panelists.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take comments from here. I think they brought some really useful information, and if you guys can focus on the lead, your business part, and release some that, you can put that as well. So we're talking about the emotional education circle.
Now, we've had a lot of different comments today, and saw a lot of different hands that still wanted to say something. So we're really hoping that this will spark conversation, that, like Dr. Connell said, everyone will get together and continue this dialogue, this conversation. One of the initiatives that the Association of Black Psychologists on the national level has implemented around the country is the Emotional Emancipation Circles, which deal with 7 particular principles that will help us some of the internalized racism and the institutional and interpersonal racism that we each face every day. So this is a way of deconstructing and demystifying the lie of inferiority. So,
and to add to that, that's something that kind of you work with for yourself first. Anything that is to be extended wise, and peer support is each and every one of us. Some of us have participated in industry, as well as a past workshop, which is facilitated by National Past President Dr. Will. And we have 2 groups. One of them was started through the Bronx chapter of the National African Network, and another one with kind of the healers, which is kind of mental professionals such as myself, and some of the board members will be participating in both the Brooklyn. So this is kind of the starting basis for what we're doing.
And Manhattan.
So you know, we kind of are starting at that kind of the starting base for that. And we welcome each and every one of you to learn more to extend invitation to follow up with us as well.
And if you have groups within your own lives that you feel might benefit from the Emotional Emancipation Circles, please give us a contact. Give us your contact information. We would love to be able to start circles across New York City.